course you remember Zeke, Rufus, Jeep, Billy Bob, Billy Jim, Billy, Billy, Banana, Fanafo, Billy, Doug, Enos, Ted, Julio, Fletcher McGee, Rainchild, Zeke, Jr.
Alright, I get it!
Oh man, this family is crazy. The Winstrate's a group of trainers from Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire who might just be one of the more tougher challenges in the games, at least for how early they're encountered. So in the Hoenn region's Route 111, there's the Winstrate house where you'll find the father standing outside for the first time you see it. He'll ask if you want to battle his whole family of 4 one by one. It seems like a fun little way to gain some experience, so maybe you accept the offer thinking nothing of it. You absolute fool. So there isn't really anything too extreme about these battles, but they are challenging in the sense that you're required to battle all 4 of them back to back with no breaks in between. That means no chance to heal your Pokemon before the next battle and no means of rearranging your team. Basically Volo before Legends Arceus. But I mean, the Pokemon aren't too highly leveled. However, if you go to their house before battling the other trainers in the stretch from Verdant Turf to Mauville, then you might be fighting an uphill battle. So first off is Victor Winstrate, the father. He only has a Zigzagoon and a Taillow, pretty basic Pokemon with no threatening moves unless you have a Grass type, which isn't a good matchup for Taillow's flying moves. Upon defeating him, the next family member is the Mother Victoria. She only has 1 Pokemon, but it's a decently leveled Roselia. It has the ability to potentially inflict some status conditions to your Pokemon with its moveset, which could prove troublesome because you'll have to carry them throughout the rest of the battle. Though if you're leading with one of your starter Pokemon that isn't Grovyle, there's a good chance it won't be a problem. In my footage here, I was a bit over-leveled, so I make it look easy. That also made me fall into a false sense of security because once you defeat the mother comes the daughter, Vivi. She has the most Pokemon out of any Winstrate and has some good variety on her team, bringing a Grass, Fire, and Water core of Shroomish, Numel, and Marill. After having battled May on Route 110, this might seem like the easy version of her, but that doesn't make it a bad team of Pokemon. If you end up leading with your starter, one of these is bound to give you a little trouble. For me, that ended up being Shroomish, which can also inflict some status conditions that you'll have to carry for the remainder of the battle. But once you defeat Vivi, she gets upset and starts crying, giving me some Whitney flashbacks. And so out comes Grandma, and she is not messing around. The first thing she does is scold you for making her granddaughter cry and like, hey, it's not my fault, she's a sore loser. I won that battle fair and square. At which point Granny threatens to smack you and then the battle begins. Truly much more intimidating than Cynthia could ever be. Grandma Vicky only has 1 Pokemon, Meditite. And sure, it doesn't look like a scary Pokemon, I mean we've seen them before and all I remember them doing is using a turn to meditate. Oh, but not this time. With your lead Pokemon already having taken enough hits, Meditite starts throwing out High Jump Kick. One of those high risk, high reward kind of moves. If the move misses, the user crashes and takes damage. Back in Generation 3, this was 85 base power, which is still a lot for early on in the game. I looked things up and it turns out from Generation 5 onward, it actually has a base power of 130, which I guess is why they nerfed Granny's Meditite in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire by giving it Force Palm instead. Come on Game Freak, we're not weenies, we can take it. Actually, looking back at my battle going on in Generation 3, I don't think I could. I switched out to some of my other Pokemon since my lead had taken a beating, but this little guy was still spamming High Jump Kick and 2-shotted my resistance wall. While I did sneak a crit onto her, she threw one right back at me. Oh no! No! With my second to last Pokemon just barely hanging on, I landed the final blow and took her down. By the end of this family gauntlet, I was nearly done for. I went in thinking that I could handle this battle, there's no way that it's as tough as I remember it being. Oh no, I only made it out alive by sheer luck. Though that isn't exactly the end of the family. Sure, the gauntlet is over and I kind of wish we could take them on in a rematch, but they'd rather go on talking about the son of the family who's off on his own training to be the very best like no one ever was. You can actually find him later on in the game being a cool trainer in Victory Road named Vito. He does have a pretty good team, but he's kind of at about the same level as the other trainers in the area, and there's another much more impactful battle to be had at the very end. Also, I think that by this point the player would be prepared for anything. 4 Pokemon in Victory Road has nothing on 7 Pokemon back to back around the time you only have 3 gym badges. He also completely loses his confidence when beaten, so he was mentally weak anyway. But over in the anime, we get to see the Winstrate family brought to life and reunited. Kind of. Episode 46 of the Pokemon Advance series, Candid Camerupt, sees Ash, Brock, May out in the desert where they're taken in by the Winstrate family. They of course are friendly at first and go on about how Vito is off training to become the champion. When Ash and friends ask if there's any way to repay them for the water and hospitality, they propose a 4-on-4 battle, which becomes the focus of the episode. On one hand, it doesn't represent the gauntlet from the video game as the battle is split up and each trainer only has 1 Pokemon, but I do like the idea of everyone being involved. The first battle is Brock against Victor, which Victor wins with a surprise Thunderbolt from Zigzagoon. Next is May against Victoria. Once Victoria sends out her Roselia, that gives May a bit of an added spark when she has a flashback to Drew's Roselia, and I think it's kind of nice that her Beautifly takes it out in one hit. Then we get to Max versus Vivi, where Max has to battle with one of Ash's Pokemon. Though this kind of just highlights how dumb it is, he never really got to officially have his own Pokemon when literally every kid around him has one. But even after Max borrows Corphish for the battle, he's a bit distracted at first after simping for the farm girl who gave him some water, a classic trope. Though it's all kind of resolved when Corphish demolishes Meryl and Vivi hates Max and breaks his heart. Up until this point, every battle has been decided with a single hit, which I guess makes sense because you need to fit 4 battles in a single episode, but it kind of makes things move a little too fast. I know these are meant for fun and have no real stakes, but they either don't have too much impact or are culminations of underdeveloped plot points. But now comes Granny versus Ash, and that's the big significant battle. Though Granny uses a Camerupt instead of her Meditite, so I guess Ash has been spared from being absolutely destroyed. Meanwhile, in the B plot, Vito ended up helping Team Rocket as it turns out he discovered being a Pokemon champion isn't for him and he'd rather raise and care for Pokemon without battling. A very different path than in the video games. But I kind of like how this puts the rest of the family's tendencies into a certain perspective. Granny's behavior ends up being even crazier, but when Camerupt goes on a rampage after getting hit in the face and nearly destroying the farm, Vito has his Alakazam use Rain Dance to calm Camerupt, and later has his Swellow help to stop Team Rocket when they steal Pikachu. Of course, Vicky notices and knows that these Pokemon belong to Vito and that he was the one helping them out from afar, and realizes he might be afraid to return home due to her expectations, so she basically lets him know that the whole family is still proud of him no matter what. This does all happen without them actually interacting, but I kind of like the little resolution that they get. Though with the fact that continuing to follow Ash during the remainder of the series, there's no reason to return to this little thread and see how it plays out. I'd like to imagine that Vito eventually returned home after continuing to pursue his own dreams. Hey, if Ash can become the world champion, then Vito can surely achieve greatness in his own way. But anyway, that was the Winstrate Family, a group of the most determined normal people you'll meet in a Pokemon game. I honestly really think it would have been a cool idea if we got to rematch them with a stronger team later on. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire just have so many of these random little characters off the beaten path that are fully living their own lives and allow the player to experience different things, while coming to better understand these other people. For sure, the Winstrate Family isn't as difficult a battle as some of the other infamous trainers in the history of Pokemon, but they've got a surprising amount of fight in them. Don't underestimate them, especially Vicky. So let me know what you think about the Hoenn region's most tightly knit family. Anyway, I gotta rush over to the Pokemon Center. Granny showed no mercy. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great Gators, Brandon Mork, Cheeseburger Lasers, Green Topaz 213, Justin R, Cosmo Zero, Meme Supreme, Michaela, Mochizuki Yoru, Nomad Nobi, Quago, Taijirai, Volity, and Pastel Blood. If you would like to support, get your name shouted out here as well as access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this has been GatorX. I'll catch you all later.
Ready to advance? Then choose 2 Pokemon instead of 1.
All right!
Combine their powers together, and you're ready to battle at a whole new level.
Let's go!
Pokemon Advanced.